Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is McDuck33 and welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Rift, the brand new game mode that was just introduced with Season 17 and the new Iron Banner rework that came with it. So, in this video, I'm going to be giving some of my opinions on it, things that I like, things that I dislike. We'll be talking about some strategies that I've learned through my time playing it, and at the end, I have a couple rounds, and we can analyze it. And, I'll just give you some tips from what I've learned. So, starting off, how do I like Rift? Personally, I think it's great. I love Rift. It's way better than the old Iron Banner. Um, and it does have its negatives, and it can be kind of frustrating at times. But I think overall, it is spectacular, and it is way better than the old Iron Banner. Um, I think a lot of people's complaints come from the fact that they just haven't learned to play the game, or rather the game mode, um, because Destiny is a very point and shoot kind of game. There's not a whole lot of strategy involved. It's a very run and gun game, and Rift definitely changes that up. Rift is not about the kills or the kill streaks or the KDs or anything like that. It's strictly all about the objective. It's all about getting the spark and taking it from wherever it spawns to the enemy rift and planting it there, and that's how you win the round. It's not by eliminations or anything like that. And eliminations definitely do help, but you aren't going to win the round by killing the enemy team. You're going to win the round by maybe killing the enemy team, which opens up a path for you to, directly run the spark into the enemy rift. Um, and the game kind of tells you this by literally not having a kill counter on the end scoreboard. There is no opponents defeated or longest streak or efficiency on the scoreboard. It's just not there. And you know how normally if you load into a control match, you see, opponents defeated in that season, KD for that season, and I want to say like rank for that season or something else like that. That's not at all what it's like in Iron Banner. It's just a blank screen. So obviously, this is the game telling you, yeah, you're not really supposed to play for kills. You're supposed to play the objective. And that's why I think so many people dislike it, because it's a very unique experience, which is one of the reasons why I love the game mode, is because it's so unique. I mean, we don't have anything that you really have to strategize around in this game other than maybe trials. But, I mean, trials at the end of the day is just elim, but with power activated. Um, Whereas this takes a lot more strategy. Trials is about killing the opponents before they can kill you. This is about getting the spark to the enemy rift, not, killing the other team. Um, I think that a lot of people don't like it because people haven't learned how to play the game. People are still learning how to strategize because, again, Destiny is a very run and gun, action heavy shooter. Whereas Rift changes that up. Rift can be a very slow game, or it can be a really fast game. It kind of depends on your opponents and how you're playing, and it's unique in that way. Another thing that I want to touch on is the uniqueness in builds, and I'll touch on this a bit later in the strategy portion of this video. However, certain weapons and abilities really shine in Rift that you don't see very often in other game modes. For example, I never touched the healing grenades in PvP until Rift, and they are really, really good. I plan on making a video on it, maybe, in the future, but they are incredible. I didn't touch them until, Rift came out, and I was trying to make this, like, protect the president kind of escort build, and I tried healing grenades, and they're just incredibly good. I'm surprised not more people use this or use them in the Crucible. But that's kind of beside the point. Um, Lots of strange weapons that you wouldn't expect to be good are good. Zone controlling weapons like the Wither Horde and stuff like that are just spectacular. And it's really been a spectacular chance to try out some new stuff that I wouldn't have tried otherwise. Um, One of my biggest complaints with the game mode is really the lack of variety in maps. There are, from what I've experienced, three maps that you can play on: um, Bannerfall, Disjunction, and which is the new map in Savathun's Throne World, and Convergence. And I've played for probably about 3-4 hours, and it was just those maps that I got. I have no idea if you can get other maps. It seemed likely that you might be able to get like Vostok or something like that, which would be pretty neat. But the three maps that I've seen are Convergence, Disjunction, and Bannerfall, and that's kind of led to both some good and bad things. I like how there's not a whole lot of maps because it allows you to create some consistent strategies that you can kind of work around and manipulate because you get these maps so much that you can change things and you don't have to wait for another 6 games before you get a map again to try and experiment. But at the same time, it gets kind of boring when you play Convergence for the third time in a row, like I did. I played 3 games to get this footage, um, and all 3 games were on Convergence, which happens to be one of my least favorite maps in the game. So, that's fun. Other than that, though, I think the game mode is spectacular. I don't have a whole lot of complaints. I think that most of my complaints about teammates not really doing what they should be, or teammates going for kills, all that stuff, is simply just a factor of the new release. I am not going to fault the community for not learning something that came out, what, 2 days ago by now. um, I expect people to learn over time now. If 2 seasons later, Rift is still in a state where teammates don't know when to get Rezs or push with this Spark Runner or, that stuff, then, I'm going to complain about it because at this point, you probably should have learned how to play Rift. However, at the current moment, I'm not going to fault people for learning how to play. Freelance, I am scared about because I've been playing freelance since it came out, or since Rift came out, and it is a little rough because you don't have that communication that you would with normal teammates. You can't say, "Hey, I got the spark, come push with me," or, "Hey, the enemy is pushing the spark, don't res me so I can respawn at our Rift," and stuff like that, which is kind of important information. So, I mean, there's been a couple times when a blueberry's just run up to my res and resed me so that I can, I don't know, chase down the enemy smart runner. Either way, I expect people to learn in the future as Rift comes back and in the next couple of seasons, now that Iron Banner is only going to be here twice a season. But overall, I think that Rift has had a pretty good launch, and I expect it to just get better from here. I really like the new focusing system for Iron Banner. It was such a pain in the ass to try and get weapons and armor and stuff from old Saladin. Um, I really like the focusing system. It's really nice. It's nice to have that kind of on all the vendors now, or all the serious vendors. And I'll be looking forward to seeing that on like Crucible and Vanguard because they have um, some pretty good weapons and armor to get there. I think this pretty much wraps up this part of the video. So next, I'm going to be talking about some of the strategies that I have personally employed into this Rift game mode, and some general tactics, strategies, things that you want to keep in mind when you're playing Rift. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so there is two main things in Rift that are super, super important, and that's Rezs and your play style. And what I mean by both of those, and I'll explain them both, is when to res, when not to res, when to push, and when to defend. And they're both incredibly important and can honestly determine the outcome of a round. So we'll start with the reses. And the reses are really important because if you notice while playing Rift, every time you respawn on your own, you're going to respawn near or at your team's Rift. And this can be a super helpful defense mechanic where if you die in the middle of the map, say trying to stop the enemy team's runner, and then they end up killing you, um, and all of a sudden, a blueberry runs up and reses you, you're going to have to chase down that runner now, which is not something you want to do. Now, if you wait for your timer to expire and then respawn at your rift, there you are, you get in front of the rift, with a couple teammates, and now you're ready to team shot the hell out of the enemy runner. So, reses, although they seem like a really basic mechanic that was kind of just tossed in there to add, another layer to the Iron Banner formula, they are actually really important because they can determine the state of your defense, the fortifications that you have upon your rift, and they can manage to get your team a round win because you got rezzed and now you can defend your spark runner. And so it kind of goes both ways, which is nice. But reses are incredibly important. I highly recommend you pay more attention to reses, when to res, when not to res, and especially if you're in team comms, if you have a party, then it becomes incredibly important because you can tell your team, hey, don't res me, I'm going to spawn at the rift and be ready to defend. And, stuff like that, good strategic stuff like that. Um, the other thing is when to defend and when to push. So, general rule of thumb, when the enemy gets the spark, go towards your rift. It's a really, you don't have to, go back all the way to your rift and just camp there on the rift, but follow the direction that the enemy spark runner is moving. If they're moving towards your rift, then go towards your rift. And try not to cut them off, because cutting them off will not do anything other than it could catch them by surprise, but more often than not, they're going to be running faster than you are, and it's better just to hit them straight on. If you try and hit them from the side, they're going to zoom past you, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you hit them straight on, they're going to be forced into a gunfight that they have to win, or they're going to lose the spark. Or they're going to have to run away, and you can tell your teammates, hey, they're going right or they're going left, converge, and we're going to, box them in or whatever. So defending and attacking is incredibly important, and especially attacking. So many times in Freelance Iron Banner have teammates just rushed in with no concern at all, and that has cost them many, many rounds, because if you don't have, I'd say, a minimum of 3, maximum of the whole team, actually, obviously, if you don't have a minimum of 3 to 4 players defending the Spark Runner, then you are most likely going to lose the round. You're going to lose the Spark, because if you just simply don't have enough defense. You need to have some people defending your Spark Runner, because the moment that they see that little Spark Runner or Stop the Runner spark distance imminent, the entire enemy team is just going to, create this blockade around the rift. And that is where your team comes in. Your team is either going to prove to be a distraction, or you're going to team shot some of the enemy team, or you're just going to flinch them off of your teammate. And the idea is to stop your teammate from dying. And even if they do die, maybe you can come pick up the spark and dunk it yourself. stuff like that. So having teammates around to help push with you is incredibly important. Arguably more important than having teammates around to defend with you. Um, the next thing I want to talk about is uh, zone control. So there's a lot of zone control things that you can do, and the main two things that I've found to be incredibly helpful are grenades and the Wither Horde. So basically the same thing. The Wither Horde has uh, grown in popularity because of this game mode, and it is fantastic. You can pretty much delay like an entire round by 30 seconds by literally just planting a Wither Horde on the spark and letting it sit there because the enemy team cannot get to it, and most likely what's going to happen is the enemy team is just going to sit there on the spark and wait for the Wither Horde to run out, and so you can just sit there and team shot them while they do it. Um, so it's an incredible weapon. I highly recommend using it. I've found it to be way more effective than any shotgun or fusion rifle or sniper that I've tried, um, and it's just incredible. There's not really a whole lot else you can say about it. It's just a phenomenal gun to use in this playlist. The next thing I want to talk about is the different phases of a match. So Rift kind of has a couple of different like phases that a match or that a round goes through. Each round starts off with the enemy team and your team converging on the spark. It happens every round, and I highly recommend that you get some opening routes. Like I said in the last segment, um, the nice thing about having a very few maps is that you can make these opening routes that you can go down every round, every couple rounds, and you get used to it and you start to play into that play style. And opening routes are incredibly important. I'll discuss that later when we go over the clips that I want to show you guys, and I'll break down some stuff. More on that later when we get to it. But opening routes are incredibly important. It lets you get some angles on some teammates, and that's kind of the first phase. The first phase is like the convergence of the teams. Everyone engages in this huge 6v6 gunfight that most likely determines who's going to get the spark. And that's when the next phase starts. That's when the spark running starts. If you execute a first phase absolutely perfectly, you can end the round before the other team has a chance to retaliate. If you can manage to kill the entire team roughly at the same time, then your teammate can run in, grab the spark, and rush to the enemy team or the enemy team's rift before the enemy team can even like get there, get a hold of what's happening, revive, everything like that. That's really where the teamwork and the strategy comes in, because if you can manage to coordinate a massive team fire into one lane, then your teammate can again go grab the spark, rush down that lane, and now, half the team, maybe the whole team even, is dead and defenseless. And that gives you a free round win. And there's a third phase that kind of starts, and that's the defense and the offense, and kind of this back and forth game of football. And that's, American football, not, British football or whatever, soccer, where, you get a certain distance and then die to the enemy team, and then your teammate picks up the spark, gets a little further, and it becomes this game of like just progressively getting the spark further and further, and then eventually you're going to hit this metaphorical fourth down, and you're going to have to switch the spark over to the enemy team, at which point they're going to continue that game. And it's this back and forth up until one team, slaughters the other team, or, finds a gap in their defenses. And that is probably the hardest part of the round, because it requires a lot of focus, a lot of teamwork, and and I mean a lot of communication. So those are pretty much the main things I wanted to cover as far as strategy. I'll talk a bit more when we get to the clips of me, playing and whatnot. Um, but, other than that, I think that that's pretty much it for strategy. And yeah, let's take a look at those clips. All right, so I'm going to get right into this gameplay right here. Um, so, like I said before, the biggest thing is having opening routes, and Convergence is the map that I've played the most on, and this opening route right here is probably my favorite on the map. If you go down to this like bottom part, then not a lot of people expect to find you there. It's a really nice spot. There are a couple other people that you might find one time, but other than that, there's not a whole lot of, people that go there. Um, so this was a really quick round. We ended up pretty much annihilating the whole team at the beginning, and by that time, there wasn't a whole lot of people to help defend the rift. As you saw, our entire team rushed all at once. I think that was all six of us that, all converged on the rift at the same time. And the other team just didn't have the people and um, you know, the manpower to stop us. So again, once the second round starts, I'm going to go for the same opening route. There's a couple different variations. It's pretty much the same on both sides. You can go down here. I like to use this little box right there as cover. If there's someone else on the other side, I can check right there. And then this jump up right here is a nice small little head glitch. I'm not really one for head glitches because often it kind of screws me over too. But this was that's a nice head glitch to use. Also, the box is a really good it's a really good place for cover, and if you go down below, then it's really nice to use, as you saw in the last round. So again, that round I am a little behind. That round was another quick round, pretty much the same thing. I was a little late pushing with the Spark Runner. I did get a little caught up in getting kills and stuff, which is, hard not to do in this sort of game. So again, I'm going 3 times in a row. Usually I'd recommend going probably 2 or 3. 3 is a maximum because you'd kind of expect the enemy team to start predicting you down there. But as long as they don't, you're fine. You might not get as many people peeking down there, or, peeking that angle where they can get shot from down there. But yeah, so I saw that my teammate had gotten the spark, and I wanted to check which direction he was going. He was pushing down that middle lane, and so at that point, we just cleared away. I don't actually know what the enemy team was doing. They kind of just seemed to be sitting in spawn. Yeah, I'm not really sure about that last round. So again, we load into another round. Maybe eventually we'll get there. There we go. So at this point, we were riding pretty high. It was 4-0. And again, I'm going to go for that same push, which in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have done because no one pushes me down here, I don't think. So, I mean, there's really no point for me to go down there. Oh, yeah, that's right. This guy pushes me, which, I mean, is kind of a rare situation. I wouldn't really expect anybody to do that under normal circumstances. But at this point, we pretty much wiped out their whole team. We got a Spark Runner, and we just rush all the way to the end. So yeah, I think that was a really good demonstration of a well-executed game of Rift. So yeah. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like. If you guys really enjoyed, be sure to subscribe because that'd be awesome. If you guys want to see me do more Destiny 2 content like this in the future, let me know down in the comments section down below. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.